Hello friends, welcome again. Friends, in today's video lecture, we want to understand what this Oxford movement was in English literature during the 19th century. And to understand the importance and influence of this movement on English literature, you need to study these lines first. And that's why I have taken these lines from John Keble, who is a poet, who is the leader, the founder of this Oxford movement. Let's read and try to understand the heart of these lines. Once you understand these lines, you understand the core meaning and core aim of this Oxford movement and its influence on English literature. The lines are like this: one only way to life, one faith delivered once for all. The poet here says that we believe in one faith, one religion, one cult, which is an older one, which is an orthodox one. One holy band. Band means a group of saints. Okay? One holy band endowed with heaven's high call. Means he says that we believe in that faith, we believe in that religion, which was initiated in the ancient times by a group of saints. One earnest, endless strife. Strife means conflict. This is the church, the eternal framed of old. So here, Keble wants to say that we believe in that church which is the older one. Now, what is this older church and what is this only one way of life, one faith, that we need to understand, and after understanding you will be able to understand this Oxford movement. So now you must have guessed that Oxford movement is originally a religious movement, okay, which is found during the 19th century England. John Keble has been considered as the pioneer, as the founder of this Oxford movement in religion. It was a movement, in fact, to reform the whole Christianity and the whole Christian manners in those times during the 19th century. It was found that Christianity was diminishing, okay, the importance of Christian authority was decreasing day by day, and that was the reason why some thinkers believed that we need to rehabilitate the dignity, the respect, the honor of church and Christianity. So, and this movement later on influenced English literature also. Now the question is how this movement began. What is the beginning of this Oxford movement? So we can say that when John Keble, published or he delivered a lecture which is entitled as Oxford Assize Sermon. Sermon means a religious lecture delivered in the church. Okay, so John Keble delivered this sermon on 14th July 1833. That means in the first half of the 19th century he delivered this lecture, and this lecture was a landmark in the history of England, in the history of Christianity in England. This lecture mainly focused on the basic idea of why there is a decrease in the power of church, why there is a decrease in the spiritual apathy among the Christian people. 18th century and 19th century, these centuries, it was the period of science and technology. So people were moving away from religion, moving towards science, logic, rationalism, and as a result, people had lost their faith from the old ancient Christianity which used to exist right from 1st century AD. So, this movement began with this lecture delivered by John Keble. After this lecture, two of his disciples means followers or students, namely they were Vipul and Isaac Williams. These two followers of Keble, they made this movement more popular among the Christian people. Later on, there were some other authors, thinkers, and writers like John Henry Newman, who was teaching in Orion College in Oxford. He also became the leader of this movement. So, friends, if someone asks you how this movement began in England, then the answer is John Keble's lecture in 1833. Now, what this movement is about, let's try to understand this. Oxford movement in English literature has this close connection with Christianity and the changes which were taking place in Christianity in England. And so, in order to understand Oxford movement in English literature, you need to understand Oxford movement in Christianity also. And to understand this Christianity, we must understand that in Christian religion there are two cults. One is Catholics and the other is Protestants, right? So there were two divisions in Christianity. Those people who were Catholic people and some other people who were Christian people, but they were Protestants. Okay, they were Protestant people, Protestant followers. Now, Catholics are who? When Romans came to England, Romans came when? Romans came to England in the ancient times during the 1st century. When these Roman people started living in England, they established a new religion in England which was known as Catholic religion, Catholic Christian religion. This Catholicism believes that if you want to attain God, if you want to achieve God, अगर आपको ईश्वर की प्राप्ति करना है, then we need to read and study the Bible and other such religious books, religious scriptures. Okay, so this is one division of Christianity. Catholics who believed that in order to attain God, achieve God, you need to read and study the religious books like Bible and other religious scriptures. But on the other hand, if you come to the 16th century, there was Martin Luther. Martin Luther, who was a German philosopher, a German religious reformer, he was not satisfied with this style of following religion. Okay, so he wanted to reform the existing Christian religion. So he came with a different ideology during the 16th century. He established a new cult in Christianity. He protested against this Catholic religion and he believed that in order to achieve God, we need not study the Bible, we need not read the religious scriptures, only we must have faith, complete faith on God, and this faith will lead us to God, to heaven. Okay, so these people, they protested against the Catholics, and that's why these people were known as Protestants. Okay, so from 16th century onwards, we have a new cult in England who were following Christian religion. Now, after 16th century, if you come to the 18th and 19th century, there were some orthodox followers of Catholicism, right? There used to be a kind of conflict between the Catholic people and the Protestant people, right? So there were some Catholic people, staunch believers of Catholicism. They observed that church has lost its power, has lost its importance from the minds and hearts of the people. Okay, they observed that people have stopped reading the Bible, people have stopped going to the church, people have stopped listening to the religious lectures which are delivered on Sundays in the church, and that's the reason why these Catholic followers, okay, they published some pamphlets in order to make them religious again, make the people religious again. These pamphlets were known as tracts for the times. These pamphlets were published from 1833 onwards till 1841. So these authors and their pamphlets, were known as Tractarians. Now these people who published these Tractarians, they rejected the interference of the politicians in the reform of the church, because church was to be reformed. People wanted to reform the church and they did not want the politicians to help them. Okay, they did not want any interference of the politicians, of the political authorities, to enter into this into the solution of this problem. They popularized apostolic tradition. Now, what is this apostolic tradition? It is believed that ancient times Jesus Christ had given 12 apostles, and Christianity was spread among the people through these apostles. So these people, the Catholics, they popularized these apostles, and they requested the people to come back to Christianity, by popularizing these apostles, 12 apostles of Jesus Christ. And this is how they wanted to teach the people ancient rituals and manners of Christianity. Now, how this influenced of Oxford movement, how it influenced English literature, that we need to understand. The Oxford movement has, as I told you, has a relation or connection with Christianity. Okay, in the same manner, this Oxford movement is also related with Romanticism. Remember, 1833. This is the date where actually the period of Romantic revival comes to the end. Remember, S.T. Coleridge, John Keats, P.B. Shelley, these people, William Wordsworth, they were writing romantic poetry, the period of Romanticism from 1798 to 1830, right? So this had already ended, and now the poets like Coleridge, Walter Scott, they turned their minds in the direction of the Middle Ages, right? Romanticism talks about Middle Ages, 12th, 13th, 14th centuries. In Biographia Literaria, S.T. Coleridge has written on the subject of imagination, and Newman also recognized this imagination as an indispensable mover controlling the development of human mind. Okay, Newman and Coleridge, they both believed in the same philosophy, that romantic literature and Oxford movement, this literature and this Oxford movement in religion, they both go to the Middle Ages. They got inspiration from Middle Ages, from the ancient times. The leaders of Oxford movement in religion turned their minds to the Middle Ages in order to escape from the political interference of the church in the present times. The same thing happened in literature also, that the poets like Coleridge and Keats, they also turned their minds to the Middle Ages. Even the influence can be seen if you read the poetry of the pre-Raphaelite poets like Christina Rossetti, Coventry Patmore, Richard Watson Dixon, and so many others during the 19th century. Now, this Oxford movement in literature has three important elements. One among them is against rationalism. This movement was against rationalism. Rationalism means use of reason, use of logic. 18th century, we know that politics and literature used rationalism during this time. Science was developing faster, okay, in the beginning of the 19th century. As a result, as I told you in the beginning also, that people of England during the 19th century, they had lost faith from religion and they gained confidence in science, okay, and as a result, they were moving away from Christianity, okay. So but the followers of the movement, Oxford movement, they went against this use of logic, use of science in terms of understanding Christianity, because people used to argue that you talk about miracles in your religion, I don't believe in miracles, right? So these followers of Oxford movement, they rejected this rationalism, and in the same manner in literature also rationalism got less importance and imagination got more importance, okay. Oxford movement, we find anti-rationalism, where there is no scope for logic, no scope for realism. Hence we can, when we read the poetry and novels of the 19th century English literature, we find this element of anti-rationalism. Second important characteristic of this Oxford movement in literature is romanticism, element of romanticism. This anti-rationalism actually leads to romanticism, right? The romantic interest in the Middle Ages for the mystery and standard is one of the common factors, right? If you read romantic poetry of John Keats, he takes us to the Middle Ages, he takes us to that world of imagination, of mystery. So what is it? It is romantic by nature. Okay, Moody and Lovett, important critiques, they believed that Oxford movement stands for the restoration of poetry, the mystical ritual. Mystical means we are talking about Middle Ages, mystical ritual and service which had characterized the Catholic Church in the Middle Ages. So, just church, Christianity goes, the Christian people, Catholic people, they go back to the Middle Ages. In the same manner, the poets like Coleridge and Keats and others, they also went back to the Middle Ages in order to restore poetry, in order to regain its honor and respect in literature. Third important element of Oxford movement is anti-political, or this movement was against Erastianism. Erastianism means against the state, against the political power. The followers of this Oxford movement, they opposed the control of the church by the politicians, because during the 19th century it was seen that there were a few people, politicians, leaders of the nation, they controlled the church, they controlled Christianity. In the same manner, in literature also, the poets who were influenced by this movement, they also wanted the freedom from neoclassicism. If you study the 18th century literature, it is mainly colored by what? Classicism or neoclassicism. So these 19th century poets and novelists, they rejected the age-old classical norms neoclassical rules of writing poetry and literature, and the same thing happened in religion also, that they rejected the power of the present political man. Okay, so this is how, friends, we come to the end of this discussion, but let me conclude the whole discussion that Oxford movement begins during the 19th century. John Keble is considered as the pioneer, founder of this movement in religion, and then it influenced English literature. In literature, it has three important elements: anti-rationalism, romanticism, and anti-political, or against Erastianism. So friends, here we come to the end. If you loved this lecture, please share it among your friends and classmates. Thank you for watching this video. Thank you.